Hello and welcome to Dubai Trains, and welcome to this new mini-series. We're going to kit bash this building out of these kits. I'm going to start in this video by planning a kit bash. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you what's the best way to cut the panels. We're really going to zoom in and look at a detailed level, and then how is the best way to fill the gaps and to make sure that they're not visible or less visible later on. So let's get started. So the first obvious thing we're going to need is a kit to bash, and for my layout, all my structures are going to be at least 6 stories tall. So, and they're all quite big, as you see here. This one is very lengthy. There's another lengthy one over there. That's going to need to be kit bashed. Here is another thing. We'll come back to that in a minute. It's very lengthy. And here's another kit. It's all very lengthy and tall. So I was looking for a kit that just has basically a lot of surface area and as tall as possible. And I found this Atlas Middlesex Manufacturing Company kit that works out quite good. I'll show you in a minute. Item number 0221. So what does this building consist of? Well, it's actually quite straightforward. This is one straight section with 2 loading bays, as you see here. It does go around the corner. This is a little bit of an optical illusion that has to happen here. So we have an expressway up here, and then I think a little bit of structure, as you see on the floor print, reddish, and then the train disappears behind it. So we'll just have to make the building like that. And this is the back side, so you don't really need to scenic that. You can just have a piece of cardboard or leave it open maybe. And then coming to the side, there is an option for a door here, which is fine. People need to get out. And then this here is actually an entirely separate industry. Might have been the same back in the day, but now it's a separate industry. So I actually was thinking to put a fence here as well, fence it in a bit. They'll add for the operations as well. Could open doors. And then this would be the facade of that structure. So we'll have 2 loading bays and a door here, which is great. That works out really great compared to, for example, this section where you only have windows. Do note for everyone who's new to my layout, this track back here is staging, so you're not meant to see that. So this will be filled in later. So, still we need 6 floors, or 7, so that still needs to be chopped. But if you look at the pieces, then they actually almost fit a footprint. This one is a little bit longer. I could consider to chop off one section of windows. Then again, my floor plan is a bit of a scenery suggestion, so I don't want to be, I don't want to consider that to be like all holy. So I have no problem to just leave this sticking out right here. So that means I don't have to touch this entire facade vertically. Horizontally, I still need to chop it off and add some stories. We'll look at that in a minute. But vertically, I can leave it like this. This section right here, this plate would need to go here. So I probably wouldn't even cut that off. I would just glue it straight onto it. You need to, of course, look at the relief. So there's a little bump there. I need to, grind that off and then make this flat. But if I can easily create a flat surface to glue that onto, so that's great. So this is, I think, the preferred structure out of the 2 for now. This one, I think, because we really have to cut it horizontally. I don't want to make too much of a kit bash for one of these first major kit bash projects I'm doing on the layout. So this is going to be the setup. So let's have a look and see what that actually means. So straight off the bat, we're going to need more of these pieces because one kit is just not going to do it. Why just not buy the same kit twice, right? So that's what I did. I have 2 of these kits. So that also explains why I have so many of these pieces, because these are basically 2 kits. So let's have a look at the panels and how we can cut them and chop them. So we need this little panel here all the way on the left. So I'm just going to put that down. Then we have this panel. And then we have these 2 guys. And then on the right, we need something else. But I think I'm just going to use, we have enough pieces there. I'm not too worried. I'll probably use one of these and then maybe just brick it out for a little bit. Because we do need to create maybe a tunnel, maybe not, for the train to go underneath. Let's just see that later. So here we are. I took all the panels and just laid them flat. Let's look at the panels a little bit first, and let me just put those away. But just the story is going to be the same for the whole structure. Let's just concentrate on this one piece. And so you see those bricks all along the facade. There's a little bump right here, which is great. Maybe we can use that to hide one of the seams. And up top, there is this, it's called crowning, and it goes down. And it goes actually below the height of this window, sill, whatever it is called. But that means that we cannot just chop it off like this and use only the crown, because we're going to mess up that window. So that means we'll have to chop off this entire section to interject some more floors to make it longer. That's this piece. Then we have these other pieces. This one, it also has this bump down below, which is great. It's missing some bricks here, but that's fine. We have the structure that should come out, so we can either make that or just only take the flat section and just basically just glue it on here, just to give some relief and to, I don't know, give the idea that there's something happening there, some extra support or something like that. Because we are kit bashing a bit proto freelance, not really prototypical. And then on the top, there's no crown molding at all, if you have seen that. And at first I wasn't really happy with that, but then I thought, hey, this is as an advantage, because that means that this line is straight, and we can really use that to our advantage to just extend the building. So let's look a little bit into that. If we would use this piece to extend the building, that means that we would start with this guy, use the bottom half, because it's great for the positioning of the bay doors, loading. And then we would cut it somewhere, I guess, down here, because you want to cut it as low as you can. Let's just cut it here. And why as low as you can? Well, because there's a lot happening down here. Maybe you want to make a roof or something, so you can hide that seam away a little bit. Or if there is a seam here, you can add some rust and some weathering, draw it down a bit. I don't know, it just looks a little bit better to have it down below here than smack in the middle of the building, I think. So we could cut it here and then interject 3 floors. So that would be 1, 2, 3. So that means we'd have to cut this one as well, chop the bottom half off, because we don't need this bottom section. But what does that mean? That means basically that when we paste this, if it makes any sense still, paste this in between there to make it larger, then we have 2 seams. We have 1 seam down below where this connects, and 1 seam up here where that connects. So it's not ideal. Second ideal point is that we don't have any bricks here. And third point is that we actually wanted to use this section for that building part up there. So not ideal, but it is possible, and this line is nice and straight, so that's almost a guaranteed nice fit, albeit that you still need to butt it up against another cut that you have to make. So that's option 1. Option 2 is we take the twin sister of that, really smash them together. We're going to cut this one up here. Remember, we can't cut it higher because the crown molding, let's say, and the windows are interfering. We'll cut it up here, and then we'll cut this guy down here, something like that, and we'll just stick this and that onto each other, and we have 6 floors right there. And then we only have 1 seam. Downside is the seam is in the middle of the building, so be it, but there's only 1 seam. That's the way we're going to go. So let me get that all ready. So let's trim some panels, and the first thing you want to do obviously is to mark exactly where you need to cut it. And there's different ways to do that. The first approach I did, because these panels are quite large, is to take a saw and just to saw them. However, my saw is not big enough, long enough, so I actually have to saw them from both directions and then meet halfway, which is definitely not ideal. And as hard as I try to create a straight saw cut, it's still a bit wobbly. So the best way to solve that is to get a large file. I got a wood file here, just to file the entire piece until it is straight and flat and also perpendicular. And then the pieces will meet up just nicely. So not being too happy with the results of the saw, I decided to cut my panels. The big advantage of cutting versus sawing is it's much easier to cut straight. You don't have to use the file at all. They're just straight, and you can butt the 2 sections together. And you can cut them from the top, and you can cut them from the bottom. And you see here, if you cut them from the top, that the initial first layer of bricks, it just decolors and deforms and actually sticks up a little bit. You can see it here very clearly. The first layer on the left has turned a bit orangey, and it's sticking up. It's very minute. You see, if you zoom in, it's very difficult to see, but you can feel it. And I'm sure once you paint everything, you'll be able to see it. That's why I started to cut from the bottom, so that deformation will be on the inside of the structure, and they're not on the brick side. So if you have like a ridge in the brickwork, you then can opt to cut it from the front, because the damaged piece will be where the ridge isn't, as you see here, which is thrown away, and you'll have a nice clean cut. So here we are again. All the main sections have been cut. If we just look at the main panels, it will be 1, 2, 3. Got this little corner piece on the benchwork. Just around the corner there, I want to have some more bricks because you might see it if you take a picture from that side. And right there, we have some more bricks that still needs to be cut. Probably cut it a little bit higher like that to maybe create a little cube on top for like an elevator shaft or something like that. So next step is we need to glue these pieces together. So let's go to the benchwork in a minute and I'll show you how to do that. After we glue the pieces together, we finally have the walls. They're going to get ready for paint. And the kit came with some footing, so I'll see if I can reuse that, because again, most of the kit is just in the same shape, so I can definitely use this U shape, the footing. Oop. And the same for the roof, I can use most of that as well. Let's go. So here we are back with the panels. This is the right side, and I'm actually not going to bother to glue this with glue. I'm actually not going to glue the plastic. Why? Because it's not going to be strong enough to hold on, and you reinforce it anyways. Number two, I don't want to somehow risk getting too much glue in there and then it'll like smudge the front, and the front needs to be touched up anyways with some filler. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a ruler like this, make sure they're aligned, press them together, and don't get me wrong, I might put a little bit of this ultra thin glue in there because it will tighten up the seam a little bit. All these burrs like that are there, that glue will just dissolve that, so it'll make it a little bit nicer. But the primary method that I'm going to use to get this fixed is a very high-tech precision glue gun. And I have these pieces of MDF left from the maybe a Model Works from the benchwork, and I'm just going to glue them like that. So the ruler's there to keep them aligned. I'm going to press them together, and I'll do my best to make it straight and not like messy. And a little goal I have to try to improve my own modeling skills at the same time. So let's go. I'm just going to put glue on the ends, not the middle, because I still need to hold the thing. And as you see, this thing is smoking hot. Maybe a bit too hot. I'm just going to turn the temperature down. I'm going to wait a little bit actually. Watch out, make sure I don't burn my fingers. And I want to stay away a little bit from the window. I'm going to take this. So you see there is a little bit of a seam, but like I said, we're going to use some filler. I'm not too worried about that. Initially, get it to tighten up that seam a little bit. As you see, it doesn't do that much, but that's fine. I mean, it's important that it's straight, that everything is aligned and straight. So no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be a little gap in between the bricks. And we're going to fill this with putty. That I'm using this ammo putty. And use a putty knife. At first you just want to dab it on and make sure it goes into the crack where it is. Some areas the crack might be bigger than other areas. And the best method I found is to use a wet finger or to wetten the putty a little bit, and then to smear across first in the middle, just to smear it all out, and once on the left side and once on the right side of that seam. And then with a sponge and maybe a little bit more water, I try to clean away all the putty that isn't necessary. Because the more putty you clean now, the less work it will be later on. To give you an idea of what that looks like, and to give a little bit more background and science to what we're doing here in the hobby, here is a zoomed in view of the seam basically. So I also took here a ball pen point just to give an idea of how small everything is. What you see bricks on the left, bricks on the right, and then you see that one orange layer of brick that's a little bit deformed, and no matter how you cut it, that's what you're going to have. And then in between the orange and the other bricks is actually the seam that we're filling up where the two panels meet. So you see it's about double the size of a normal mortar line, and yeah, it just is a bit what it is, and it'll just have to do. Nothing's going to be perfect, and this is already super small. And one thing you want to do before painting is to actually carve out or clean up a little bit of the putty that got into the mortar lines of the bricks. A decade ago, when I got back into the hobby, I saw people do this. And I'm thinking to myself, they're absolutely nuts. I just want to run some trains. Well, 10 years down the line, and I'm doing it myself. So if you think that this is absolutely nuts, I'll see you in 10 years. So just brushing away some of the excess putty and then doing the vertical lines, and that will be about it for this step. So let's have a look at the overall progress. So here's the building thus far, about, I guess, 30% complete. Still needs to be painted and whatnot. But it's nice to see it together like this, just to make sure the composition is right, and just enjoy a little bit the fruit of my work. And now here are all the parts and pieces. So they're all glued together, as you see, with the the method we discussed, and all the grouting is on here. And I'm sure there's a few places where the groove is a bit deep. Other places it's actually quite fine, that you might see a little bit when it's done. But I'm just going to leave that. I think it's going to be fine. And you know, if there's a groove here, it just is what it is. I mean, real buildings in real life also had grooves. Can't be a totally flat section. There's the back here. Put some more of these support brackets. Now the kit came with 6 dummy windows to fill in, just brick in basically the windows, and I want to fill in the entire bottom floor. So that's 1, 2, 3, 11 pieces. So 6 is definitely not enough. But what I already did here is I just took some extra leftover sheet material that I had with the bricks. I just glued it to the back. I mean, the brick filler pieces, they are inside the window sill. Yeah, but there's no way I can accurately cut that and make that fit. That's not within my skill set. So I thought this was going to be, or is actually quite a nice alternative. So I'm going to mix it up a bit. I'll use the 6 that came with just for the, I don't know, that one. And let's see how to do it. Just in some prominent locations, and the other ones, I'm just going to fill them in. So now we're just going to get ready for paint. And as you see now, this building, I'm going to use the paint scheme from Bill Denton's layout, and where we have a different color brick on both sides of the building. What actually happens is, I guess this is the original color of the brick, and this is the painted brick, because they would paint a lot of the brick back in the day. So that's what we're going to do. So if you see that here on the layout, let me just zoom in a little bit. Then this would be color number 1, the dark color, and this would be the lighter color. You see also I took the footing that came with the kit. I already cut it out a little bit. It's a bit too big. It's fine. I can just trim it down easily later on. But it needs to be painted first. That's the next step. Everything needs to be painted. So the brick's going to be painted. This is going to be painted. I have also the roof section that came with. I'm just going to leave that and trim that exactly to length after I put all this together, just to make sure it fits nice and tight. So that's it for now. I'm just going to leave it. Don't want to make it any longer than it has to be. Thank you guys all for watching. Bye bye.